We've asked our viewership, what kind of dessert would you like us to turn into a mead?
And Key Lime Pie Mead came up a lot.
So we got some key limes.
If you have a Whole Foods grocery store near you, I suggest going there. This is the second item now that we found at Whole Foods that was the thing we needed. We found
The Muscat grapes.
Muscat grapes. We've actually seen cotton candy grapes there, and now key limes. We found limes everywhere, just not key limes. So we're using key lime. We're in Florida. You'd think key limes would be more popular, right? Yeah. We have here 2 pounds of key limes. I put them into a strainer and I dunked that into turbos. By the way, everything that will be touching our must, all the gear that we're going to use today has been sanitized in
the red bucket of sanitization.
That's the aforementioned turbos. It's just a big bucket that's filled with sanitizing fluid mixed according to the manufacturer's directions. Now, we're actually not going to be using the limes today, but we do want to prep them today. And to prep, all I'm going to do is take each lime and cut it in half. Just like that.
Because key limes are small.
SML.
So, half is good enough.
Yeah. I'm going to cut them in half. I'm not going to do it all now because that would just be a boring video. And then we're going to throw it in a bag and we're going to throw that in the freezer. That way, all those little cell walls get broken up by the ice crystals for when we actually need them in the must. But for now, we'll just get them out of the way. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to hydrate our yeast. Now, looking at the yeast packet that we're using, it's Mangrove Jack's CY17, which is a premium wine yeast. The reason I chose this one is it says well suited for dry and sweet white wines and rosé wines, such as Sauvignon Blanc, Zinfandel, Muscat, Muscadet, and more. And I just thought this has such a wine flavor to it that I think it actually will probably be a pretty good yeast. It's also 14% ABV tolerance, which we're going for about 12 to 13. So
where
that should
did you
be fine.
find that tolerance, Brian?
It's actually on the packet. This is the first time I've ever seen an alcohol tolerance on the packet, but it's actually right there. So good job, Mangrove Jacks. They also tell you ferment at 16 to 24C, which is 61 to 75 degrees. We are going to be at the upper end of that range, just because that's how our house is. So in the past, when we've used Mangrove Jacks, we've had not troubles with them, but they didn't perform as well as we might like them to. But we were sent a bunch of this by North Mountain Supply, so we're going to test this out, which is also why I'm hydrating. It says right on the package, you don't need to, but we are, because we've been testing systems to ship yeast and keep it cool, because, we're in Florida and UPS trucks don't have air conditioning, so they're sitting in that truck all day. Yeast die, they just do. So I'm just going to use half a packet.
But the good news about that, if you get your yeast from North Mountain Supply, they guarantee the viability of their yeast, so you don't have to worry if they've been baked in the truck.
Right. So if you get a dead yeast, then you just, get a new one. I'm just going to fold this up using my patented method. Now, this yeast actually says it has trace minerals and stuff. You can actually see in there's some powders and stuff. It's not like diammonium phosphate or anything. It's actually trace vitamins and minerals. And I want to just add a little bit of water to this.
So I started off with 100?
100 ounces of, wait a minute, that's 108 ounces of water. Okay. To be notated. Just a little bit, a couple tablespoons.
And you don't have to swirl it.
I do have to, stop. I do have to a little. I have to agitate it. See, it's agitated now. It's angry. Angry yeast. Okay.
So we're just going to set that aside. And what we're looking for is a foam dome, or at least signs of activity that the yeast are viable.
Exactly. Next, because this is a mead, we need honey. We also need a fermenter. As is our way, we are doing a 1 gallon batch. If you wanted to do a larger batch, all you got to do is scale everything up. The only thing you wouldn't scale up totally is the yeast. My rule of thumb is if you're making 3 gallons or more, you want to use a whole packet. If you're making under 3 gallons, you want to use a half packet. If you're making 3 gallons, you can go either way.
Choice is yours.
However you're feeling that day. For our honey today, we're going to be using Desert Creek Raw Unfiltered Texas Honey. Why? Because we have probably about 2.5 pounds in here, and I'd like to use it up. Plus, this has actually been a really solid performing honey.
We've used this honey many times before, as you can tell by our very nearly empty jug. So we're good to go. We do need.
I'm not going to use a funnel.
You're not.
Nope. I'm going to go without a funnel today.
It's insanity.
Here we go. Looking for 2.5 pounds. Okay, so we have our honey. Next step, we want to add some water to this. I'm just going to pour it. Not using a funnel today. Last video we did, we used a funnel, and it just took forever for all the honey to come out. So I'm like, you know what? We don't need no stinking funnel.
Walking on the wild side.
I'm going to fill it about halfway. Those of you who watch the show know what's coming. And those of you that haven't watched the show, welcome. What's coming next is the Thumb Saver Bung. It is literally just a stopper that doesn't have a hole in it. If you still have the lid for your fermenter, if it came with one, you can totally use that too. Just make sure it's
sealed
good seal.
Because you're doing this now.
Yep. We're shaking the bejesus out and shaking some oxygen in. This is mixing up the honey, but also trying to get some oxygen in there, because what do we need oxygen for in the beginning?
Well, we need oxygen so that our yeast that we are adding in a bit will be fruitful and multiply. They require oxygen in order to reproduce, as they don't need a partner. They just need some oxygen.
They bud. They're buds.
But once they start getting to work and creating alcohol, you don't want to add oxygen, because alcohol plus oxygen plus acetobacters, which are omnipresent, could create vinegar.
Yes. Okay, I'm just going to put in a little bit more water. When you add more water, make sure you mix again. I speak from experience. I've taken readings after adding water and gone, why didn't it change? Yeah.
Oh, there's your problem.
Nothing like panicking while you're recording on camera, you know? Notice the color change? That's the oxygen getting in there. When you're removing the bung after doing that, be very, very careful, because they can spit. It builds up pressure inside. Okay.
Now, we're not really adding much to this one, right?
No, we're just going to add a little bit of yeast nutrients.
Now, if you recall, this particular yeast has some minerals and nutrients added to it already, but we don't know what kind of yeast. What's yan? Yeast assimilable.
Yeast assimilable nitrogen.
Yeah.
I don't believe there was any nitrogen in there.
Yeah.
So we're going to use fermento, which is a nice organic source of nutrients. If you want to leave it out, you totally can. This is just a help. Think of it like insurance. And I'm just going to do a half teaspoon and try not to hit the sides. Totally hit the sides.
It's all right. You can be tricky with your water pour to.
Yeah, well, I got to mix it in too, and I'm going to put more water in. Essentially, what we're doing is making a mead first, and then we're going to be flavoring it with other things to make it taste like key lime pie. It's a very basic way to make mead, but it works. It's very effective. It keeps the flavors clean that way. Not that there's anything wrong with putting the fruit in immediately either. You could totally do that if you want to. I don't judge. I am going to sort of fill this most of the way, though, I think. We're getting close. I generally like to go just where it starts to round that shoulder in primary. Oxidation in primary is not an issue. It will not oxidize in here. We might add a little bit more after we add the yeast. And I want to swirl this around to get that fermento mixed in.
Well, we also want to take our pH reading, so.
Yeah, this will still be an approximate pH reading, but, you know, it'll put us in the range to find out if we're way high, way low.
Do you want to swirl it better than that? I don't know if it matters.
I don't think fermento is going to really change the pH. And it breaks up over time. It never does what you want it to. We are going to check the pH now, though, and that's just the acidity. If it's too acidic or too base, it's bad for making mead. So let's find out. It's very green, as in that is probably not acidic enough. It's looking like 5 or higher. Generally speaking, you want to be between, say, 3.5 and 4.5, okay? If you go beyond those extremes, here's what happens. Over 4.5, 4.6 specifically, if there was botulism spores in your honey, it's a very small risk, but if there was, they can actually grow in 4.6 or higher pH. Not a good thing, something you want to avoid. So we want to keep it below that for that reason.
Also, if it's too acidic, like below...
I really don't like to go much below 4, 3.5 being like the low limit.
Then that could stress out your yeast and they might not be able to ferment the fermentable sugars. So...
However, because we're not too acidic, it's not going to kill the yeast immediately, we can add our yeast now, and that way we can start getting a more accurate reading, because this may change the pH. If it was too acidic, I wouldn't add the yeast yet.
Okay.
Get more of them up into active solution before I do that. They need to achieve their destiny. And if they're stuck to the sides or in the bottom, they're not going to fulfill their destiny.
Yeah,
Just work with me here. Somebody asked why we say the same jokes all the time.
We have room for a little bit more water.
We do.
Do you want to rinse out your
we can do a little rinse.
Unfulfilling destiny?
Rinsey rinse. Somebody asked why we do the same jokes all the time, and it's actually for repetition's sake, so that it's a joke, but it's reminding you of something that should be done. So is it a joke or is it a reminder? Anyway, a little bit more yeast going in. Yeah, that's as much as I dare to go.
Bellissimo.
Okay, beautiful.
All right, shaky, shaky.
I'm going to shaky. Okay. Doesn't need a lot of mixing at this point. You just want to make sure it's blended through. And now we're going to get a real pH reading, because that last one was fake. I'm kidding. It was just an approximate, and I'm a little surprised. We've been seeing this lately where pH has been too high, too low, way off. I was always told, and it was like the common knowledge that I was told, was that honey was acidic enough that when mixed with water correctly for making mead, it automatically fell into the right range. We're finding that that's not necessarily true. Now, that is looking like 4.5 to me.
All right, so we have in the past been adding a half teaspoon of acid blend.
Yeah, I think we're just going to do a pinch of acid blend.
I was going to go get the 4th teaspoon.
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
We'll use a 4th teaspoon measure. Acid blend is literally just malic acid, citric acid, and tartaric acid.
Did I say it wrong?
I don't know. Tantric, I don't know. It's not that one.
That's something else.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, and it calls for up to a teaspoon. I'm not even going to use the whole quarter teaspoon. I'm going to use like half of a quarter because I don't think we need that much. It's in a semi-safe range now, and they do acidify a little bit as they ferment. So I'm just going to put in just a dash. That's 1/8 of a teaspoon maybe, just to change it a little bit. And it also will show you how much effect that'll have on the actual acidity.
Mixy?
Yes. And it's interesting. For years, we never really concerned ourselves with pH because I went by the common logic of, you don't need to worry about that. Honey's acidic. When you mix it with water, it goes to the right thing. But we're finding that's just not necessarily true all the time. And it's really interesting. We've had some stalls in the past, and we've had some stalls that I checked after the fact, and it was due to pH. That looks much, much better now. It's looking between 4 and 4.5. So I think that's absolutely perfect for where we want to be. Something I want to talk about, though, is we just added a little bit of acid blend. That's going to affect the flavor by just a tiny bit. But also, we didn't add all the limes now because had we put all those limes in here now,
it would be way too acidic.
It would be way acidic. We'd have to buffer it to be not acidic. I'd much rather put in just a tiny bit of acid blend to acidify rather than a whole ton of bicarbonate to buffer.
Also, there's going to be an added benefit to adding all that acid from the limes after fermentation is done, because making it a more acidic beverage will help stabilize and keep it, there's a word. Safe.
Stable is the word you were looking for, I think.
Oh, I said stabilize. I don't know. There's another word.
We are taking a gravity reading now to see what the starting gravity of this is. And it should be somewhere around 1.090-ish because of the amount of sugars that we added in the form of honey. And because we made a gallon, 1.094. I actually had a spot for OG on my list. I didn't use it. I like to keep my original gravities below 1.100, and there's a good reason for that. We actually did a test recently where we compared high ABV versus low ABV, and it didn't turn out to be super high or super low. It was like 14 versus 10, and here's what we found. Even using EC1118 champagne yeast, the one that's supposed to be able to chew through anything, it had trouble with the 14%, and it had zero trouble with the 10%.
Yep.
It didn't go totally clear. It didn't get all the way down as low. It struggled a little bit more. That little bit of struggle tells me that the closer you are to that 1.100 or below mark, the better off you're going to be for your yeast overall. So sticking there, that's good. It's going to make something like 12 to 13% ABV, which here's the thing. If you try to make something that's too high of an alcohol content, it's going to take longer to age before you can drink it, and it's going to be a lot harder to drink. It's not going to taste as good. Ethanol is a flavor. It has to be balanced in. Most commercial wines and meads are between 8 and 12%. Sometimes you see 13 or 14, but usually they're lower than that. So there's probably a reason. And it's not just because it's cheaper for them to make it that way. It's because it tastes better that way.
But also, if you really want to get that higher ABV, doing a graduated feeding or a step feed method is going to keep your yeast happier and probably not stress as much as if you dumped all those fermentable sugars right at the get-go.
And if you need more alcohol, have 2 glasses. Simple.
All right, are we ready for a bung and airlock?
We are ready for a bung and airlock.
All right.
And yes, you really do need a bung and airlock. They keep bugs out and let the gases out. They keep bugs out and let the gases out. So it's all out, nothing in. Nothing comes back in. That's the idea. Now, when I say bugs, I mean literal fruit flies, because they love this stuff. They smell this from a mile away. I mean, it's honey. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to be attracted to it.
Sure. If you've ever been to an orchard or any place, if you have a fruit tree in your backyard and some fruit fall on the ground, you know how there's all those bugs just swarming around? It's because they're attracted to the fermenting sugars.
Now, the more important part is letting the gases out. If you put a lid on this or a cap and gases build up, it's going to explode. It will blow up. I mean, shattered glass flying everywhere at high speed. Not safe, not good. Please, 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 the lid thing where you just crack it everywhere, don't do that. Use an airlock. Use a proper airlock. And if you can't get an airlock, if you absolutely have no way of getting an airlock, use a piece of tubing going from a bung into a mason jar of water. That's an airlock. It's also called a blow-off tube. We use them when things get too aggressive, but it's an airlock, okay? It's just a primitive airlock. That's all it is. If you can't even do that, you have none of that stuff, you can't get tubing or a bung somehow, if you have to use a balloon.
Or you can do multiple layers of cheesecloth.
You can do multiple layers of cheese.
They're real fine.
Well, I was getting to something on the balloon.
Oh.
If you have to use a balloon, if that's the only thing you got, make sure you sanitize that balloon, because there's chemicals and stuff in there that you don't want in your meat. So make sure you wash it out real good, sanitize it. It's not the best thing. I don't like them, but if that's all you can do. Cheesecloth is probably a better option at that point, though. Multiple layers of cheesecloth with a rubber band around the thing, and it'll hold it. You won't be able to see the bloop, bloop, bloops, but at least it's safe.
Yep. All right, so what are we going to do now?
We're going to put this in the fermentation, and we're going to watch for bubbling to happen in the airlock, and when that bubbling stops, we'll be back to show you the next step. Okay, it has been 4 weeks on this one.
And as you probably just saw, it just bubbled again. This has been the weirdest fermentation, and we really don't have an explanation as to why it keeps on fermenting.
It's also the gassiest fermentation I've ever seen in my entire life as a brewer. The first day, I tend to give them a swirl, this thing foamed up and out the air. I was like, what the? Just like 2 little swirls.
And he would keep swirling it, and it would keep doing it. And I'm like, at what point do you realize it's just going to do that?
Never. It should stop at some point. So we're going to do its first check today.
What's the definition of insanity?
Shh. Me. How's that? It is not really clear either, which means
I'm thinking it's still going. I don't know what the heck is going on.
This is just mangrove jack yeast, acid blend, honey, and fermento. Not much in here.
It's just unusual.
Chaos brew.
It's unusual.
It's chaos brew.
Whoa, careful.
I do think it fermented well, though.
It's still gassy.
Yeah, it's still got some gas. Well, I didn't degas it at all.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not done. It either stalled or it's not done.
There's more. It probably needs to be degassed again because it's just nuts.
See if I can degas the sample slightly.
And for us, this is just a thing. It just sometimes this happens, but it's a little frustrating because we want to get to the key lime part.
1.004.
We're stuck on the mead part. We want to get to the key lime.
Yeah, I mean, it may have stalled, which isn't really a horrible thing because we're going to be adding limes and we're going to be adding some more honey and we're going to be adding extracts to make the gram flavor. So it's not really a problem.
Yeah, we're not concerned.
We're not ready to move on yet
Yeah.
either. I am going to degas this a little bit for you guys to see how much gas is in here. It's crazy gassy. I do think it's done fermenting. I don't think it's going to go much further.
Typically, once fermentation has started, we degas with the airlock on just to avoid oxidization.
This one's nuts, though.
But because we know this is a gassy
And now
beast,
it's not going to do it. Now it's not going to do it.
It's going to be like, I'm camera shy. I'm not going to do it. No.
Whatever.
All right. Do you want to put this back on then?
I'm going to degas it a little bit more.
Okay.
This is degassing. I am getting a spiral going in here. This is not just shaking. Somebody said all I'm doing is shaking it up. I'm like, no.
There's a difference between shaking and swirling.
Yeah. And also, CO2 is much heavier than oxygen, and oxygen is less permeable to water or liquids than CO2.
So if you look at this, it is pushing, you can see it pushing the volume out. So it's pushing the liquid, and see, it's already bubbling. So it's...
And if I do a little bit more while that's on there, it just starts coming out.
Yeah.
All right, that's its first check. We're going to give it another week, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 6, and see how it does. Okay, it's been 2 more weeks. It is time to take a check on this and see, is it actually done? Is it stalled? What's it doing?
As you can tell by all the extra stuff, we're hoping it's done.
We have plans. First thing you want to look for is there anything that looks bad? As you can see from this view, there's nothing in here that looks like it shouldn't be in that brew. It's not fully clearing, but it does show signs of clearing. So that's a good sign. It was a 1.004 last time. I'm hoping it went down just a little bit more and actually finished out.
It's also a much darker color than most of our brews come out, being that this is just a mead right now.
Yeah, that's unusual.
Which led me to ask Brian, what kind of honey did we use? And he had to go research because we didn't write it down. It was the Texas honey. So...
It's at 1.000 now. It finished. So normally what we'd say is if it moves at all, you want to wait another week. In this case, it's been already since July 25th. So we're already looking at, oh, wow, this is going on 5 weeks, 6 weeks at this point.
Right.
I'd much rather just move forward. The little bit of fermentation that might happen, I'm okay with that.
So because we know we're about to add our important character, which is the key limes of our key lime pie, we're going to upgrade to our 5-liter fermenter.
Yep.
My question to Brian is, do you want to add the limes first?
I want to add this first.
Because every time we talk about this, we say we should have added the solids first.
Yeah, we're going to put the solids in right after this, the sample. Okay, and we have the limes that have been sitting out for a while. They're probably not totally unfrozen, defrosted, I guess is the correct term. But they're close, so we're just going to
move this closer to you.
Oh, thanks. I'm just going to drop them in. 2 pounds of key limes, by the way, halved and frozen.
Oh, they smell so good.
They really do. Oh, wow, yeah. Okay, and now we're going to rack our mead onto that. And this is 5 liters, believe it or not. It's like a TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside than it looks.
It is. It's kind of crazy.
It should have enough room for the limes and the meat. So as we always do, we're going to use an auto siphon. To use an auto siphon, you put the destination end lower than the source, and I'm going to leave the cap on. This is not just for show and, protection and stuff. It's actually there to keep you from going too far into the lees.
Right, because if you don't have the cap, the suction point is at the very base. With the cap, the suction point is elevated to the top of the cap.
Now, because this is just the first racking, and we're going to have to rack it again because we're putting so much fruit in, I'm not really all that worried about it. So I'm just going to go all the way to the bottom, let it ride, suck it all up. It's all good. Because it's just going to sift.
We're not going to suck it all up.
You know what I mean? It's going to just sift to the bottom anyway. I'm not going to suck it all up, no, because I have the cap on. But some of the goop is going to get in there. We're just being silly. But some of it's going to get in there, and it's okay. This is how you can maximize the amount of product that you get. All right, so now we're just going to put the lid back on it with an airlock. And I took a note, add key limes, stick my note. Oh, you got to dry it. Got to dry it. If it's not dry,
where are you putting it? Because
I'm going to put it right there.
Okay.
She's going to make that the most dry.
He always picks a random place that I didn't dry. That's why I have to ask.
And she thinks I do it randomly. I think I do, though. And then this is just going to go in the fermentation for another week, probably 2 weeks, to extract more of that lime juice. And we'll be back to show you the next step.
It's been...
About, wow, like 3.5 weeks.
Why?
Because we wanted it to get a lot of lime. We wanted it limey.
We wanted it limey.
So today we're doing a limey test. Liminess test. Limey test? I don't know. Whoa, it smells limey. But that's how it's supposed to smell. It actually smells really good. It's also cleared up quite nicely. So what we wanted to do is take a quick little taste just to make sure it's limey enough. I'm pretty sure it is.
I'm pretty excited about this now.
Look at that clarity.
That's beautiful.
We're going to cloud it all up in a little bit.
Yep.
But wow, does that smell like lime? This was at 1.000. Now, I'm going to do another check on it just to make sure that it didn't ferment further, but the limes add a little bit of sugar, so we won't know.
But they also add some acidity, I would imagine.
That's true.
So we might have stabilized it by buffering it with acid. It's limey enough, apparently.
Oh, it's tart. That's tart. It's dry and tart. Oh, boy. It hurts. I got goosebumps. Oh, yeah. I'm tasting good bones, though. The base is there.
It doesn't affect me the way it affects Bri.
Oh, I'm not a huge lime fan.
Am.
Oh.
I am.
All right. Anyway.
I can see Adam and I just drinking this as it is.
All right. So first thing we want to do is rack this off the limes. And because there's little bits and pieces in there, I think we should use the thingy.
The rumble jar?
Rumble jar.
All right.
As long as you can make sure to hold it so that it doesn't, like you're going to put it in there.
I'm putting it in there. All right.
Because I think that's better. Or is it better for me to just push it down in here?
It doesn't matter, but it's over there.
I'll go get it. I think I will push it down in here because the level, when she puts it into here, might be too high, whereas in here it'll never go above. What this is basically it's a coffee filter, okay? We've been dealing with this company for years.
Yeah.
They sent us stuff a long time ago. And it's a very fine mesh filter. So it's kind of like a hops basket, although it's even finer than that. Like you can't even really see.
It's high quality, good stuff. And we're going to actually be utilizing this as a tool in our brewing more frequently because we've started coming up recently with all these great applications for it.
It got sanitized. But in this case, there's a lot of small little bits and pieces in here that I don't want in our brew.
And so it's going to create a micro mesh barrier.
Which means I don't need the cap.
That we can, that's right.
Can you take the cap off?
You got to pull.
I'm working on it. Yep, don't need the cap at all because we're going deep, people.
I don't even know what I was talking about. All right, so it creates a micro mesh barrier for us to put our autosave in. Liquid's going to flow through that just fine, but all those little bits...
Well, lees will still come through. There will still be some lees that will come through.
Gunk
chunks, though.
Will not.
Yep, we want to eliminate the chunks. Lees, though, not going to stop lees. And that's okay.
Partially because we have a lot to add to this. This was painful for Brian. We have to make it at least not painful.
Yeah. If that's your goal, is not painful, you know. But it's super clear. All of the limes are sitting at the bottom. Nothing floated. So that's beautiful. They're kind of getting mushy too. Like I felt it when I put the rumble jar in there. I just mushed right into them. Little resistance. So the idea that you have to blend everything up and all that, don't worry about it. Don't get crazy with that. We were doing this for flavor. They added flavor. Trust me. All right, so one didn't want to go. But it actually kept it pretty clean. I think that was our first time really trying it that way. That seemed to work pretty well. And we ended up with like 104 ounces of total product, so that's not bad. That's actually pretty decent, actually, considering we started with a 5 liter. Anyway.
So this is supposed to be a key lime pie. Right now, it's just a painful, limey mess.
Yep. So
we're going to need sweetness, and we're going to need graham cracker.
Sweetness. Where's the graham cracker?
Graham cracker.
For graham cracker, we're going to be using an extract because I know people have done it where they put actual graham crackers in there. I'm not a huge fan of that idea. That seems like a mold waiting to happen. So I'd rather not do it. But we are going to sweeten with honey. And we used Texas honey originally. Let me see if we have any. We do not have enough Texas honey to sweeten this with. So
we're just going to do a neutral. This is a wildflower honey.
I think the Texas one's a wildflower too. I'm going to estimate a decent amount of sweetening. Now, the way we sweeten is I dump some in and we taste it. And then I dump some more in if we need it. And then we taste it. Now, this one was so tart that it needs quite a bit to start with. And you want to get it? Get it. There you go. She will sanitize that finger. Don't you worry. And then I use the spattle. It's a spoon. It's a paddle. It's both. Get yours and link in the description below. Sorry if I've done that joke already. I just think it's funny. And I just want to mix this up carefully. I don't want to introduce oxygen to it, but there is still going to be some CO2 coming out. It's been sitting for a while, so probably not a lot. So I want to be a little bit careful on this one. Now, something about this one is we did not surpass the tolerance of the yeast for this one. So I'll calculate the ABV in a minute, but it's somewhere around 13 or so %, and the yeast we used should go a lot higher than that. So
when we get it flavored just right by dialing it in,
we're going to
pasteurize. I'll put a link in the description below of our full pasteurization process, so that way you can follow along if you are unfamiliar.
Right. Some people like to use sorbate and sulfite to do that. I have never actually done it. So if you choose to go that route and ask me questions about it, I'm probably going to say I can't help because I've never done it. So I don't like to give answers on things that I've never done or don't know anything about. And that is definitely one of them. We just like pasteurization. It's quick, simple, convenient, and kills the yeast for certain.
That smells really good. I like the smell of it.
It does. It smells like key lime pie so far.
Yeah.
It's getting there. Am I mixed? I'm mixed. Okay. I didn't add a lot yet, so it might still be kind of limey. It's going to be limey anyway, but...
Just do a little pour.
I am. It smells wonderful. It really does. It smells like a key lime pie. It's still quite limey and astringent. Needs a lot more sweetness. Right, sweetness? And this is the most time-consuming as far as putting in work part of making a brew like this, because how do you know exactly how much you need? You don't until you do it. Are you ready to scoop that off there? Just get it all. There you go. Good job. All right. And we will give a reading at the end. The reason we do it this way is because if we just said, put in a pound of honey, well, what if you don't have the same amount that we have? What if your taste is different than ours? What if that's too much? So because volumes may vary and recipes may vary, one thing that's constant is a final specific gravity. So if I give you a final specific gravity at the end, you can just match that gravity with your brew, no matter what the volume size.
Honey is also a natural product. You know this, right?
Varies.
And it varies itself. So there could be a larger amount of water within the honey, which is going to decrease the sweetness level.
Doesn't change by a lot, but it could be a factor, yes.
It could be a very dry honey, so it may be sweeter in its level.
Exciting television. Hey, mixing is part of the game, you know? It's like cleaning up. We don't show cleaning because it's boring. I think that's done.
That in cleaning carboys tends to be a full contact sport, and I could win a wet t-shirt contest afterwards.
Which is a whole other kind of channel.
Is it sweet enough, sweetie? All right, keep on dumping in there.
This is going to be sweet. This is one of those, like, we're making it a dessert. So, of course, it's going to be a dessert mead. Go ahead. Get it.
You stop!
I'm estimating we're probably going to end at like a 1050, 1075 gravity, somewhere in there. That lime is so tart. It really cuts through a lot. So, and that's the thing about balancing flavors. When you have something that's so acidic and so tart like that, you really need to up the sweetness to balance it. Otherwise, it's just going to be super acidic and super tart, and it's not going to taste like what we want it to taste like.
It's similar in comparison to when you have to balance the spiciness of a capsicum out. You're really going to have to push the sweetness level up based on your capsaicin tolerance level. Otherwise, it's just going to be heat, and there's not going to read any honey notes in there at all.
Spices, we've had that with
some of the metheglins and stuff. Yeah.
Lots of spices needed lots of sweetening to taste really good, and then they taste unbelievably amazing. It's my favorite kind. We've probably added a little over half pound of honey, though. Maybe
I should
even
get our
3/4.
gravity reading stuff.
Yeah, you should. I smell the honey a little bit now. It's much better.
Do you need more?
I think I still need a little bit more.
Go for it.
It's getting close-ish. Almost close. Like, I don't want to overshoot, be super sweet, but, you know, would it really be that bad? Now, adding this much honey does dilute a little bit, too. We were at... Did I even figure that out yet? Nope.
I don't think so.
Watch me multitask. All right, so we started at 1.094. And we ended at 1.000. And this is a very approximate number because we then added limes and let that go, and we didn't take a reading again after that. So, oops. But anyway, that's 12.69%. So I'm going to call it 12.5 right now. With the amount of honey that we added, we have diluted that by like 8 ounces. So that's like, you know, I can actually figure that out. 12.69. Give me a second. All right, so some quick math while I'm doing this again. We started at 12.69%. So if I take 12.69 and multiply that by the 104 ounces that we had when we started, I get 1,319.76, okay? Now, I added 16 ounces more volume to this, okay? So that diluted it. Plus 16 more ounces, right? And now my total is 120 ounces. So if I divide that by 120, we get 11.1%. So I'm just going to call this 11%. And that is how you calculate for dilution. Not a big deal. And honestly, this is anywhere from 10 to 12% at this point. It's not critical. But I think with all that talking, I mixed it enough. I think we're finally at a point where it tastes pretty good. It's lime mead right now. So before we start adding other things to it, let's take the gravity reading to see where we're at. And I know we take a lot of readings on this show, but you know what? We do it partially because we are a show. We are showing you stuff. If we were doing this for ourselves, we might not take quite as many because do I even care what the final gravity of this is? No, I really don't care at all. I'm only doing it to show you. You know, that's it. And splash everywhere because it's more fun when I splash things. I was not far off my estimation. I said between 1.050 and 1.070. It is 1.054. Before anybody freaks out and says that, whoa, that's way too sweet. Coca-Cola is sweeter than that. Just saying. And people drink that. So, you know.
And this is a dessert mead. It's supposed to be drank as a dessert. It's just a small amount. You're not going to be chugging vast quantities of this.
Some people will.
I mean, you could, but it's not recommended.
Okay. So, I know that this is like an ounce per gallon, and there's 4 ounces in here. We've used half of it. Let me go get a tablespoon. Okay, first let me cover the honey, just in case. You know, fruit flies, they're a thing. We're in Florida. Nobody wants fruit flies in your honey. And if you do, I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that. Anyway, so this is graham cracker extract. It's from Brewer's Best. It is actually made for putting into brews. The ingredients are polypropylene glycol, ethyl alcohol, water, high fructose corn syrup, natural and artificial flavors. No allergens is what it says. I'm sure somebody's allergic to one of those things. I mean, come on. You can't have no allergens at all. And I'm just going to put in a tablespoon to start with.
It just smells so good.
Smells amazing. Normally, I would start with like half a tablespoon or even a teaspoon, but in past experience using this graham cracker extract, we needed a lot more than we thought. So I thought, let's just start big. You know, play big or go home. On the plus side, by adding all that honey to it, we actually now have much closer to 120 ounces rather than 104 ounces. So you end up with more product. See? Win-win. Oh, wow. little more gram, and I think we got it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put in half that much again. That's amazing how different that did it. Wow. I'm debating on vanilla, but I don't really know that vanilla works on this.
I'm going to have to defer to you because, like I said before, I don't really...
Yeah.
I'm not a big key lime pie eater.
I don't think vanilla is actually in it. And I usually like to use vanilla with chocolate as an enhancer.
I might have to change my mind on key lime pie consumption.
Yeah. I don't know why you don't like it.
I think because lots of times it's served with like a meringue dollop on top, and I don't like meringue.
Yeah, well, that is how it's served. We're not doing the meringue in this. No meringue. Because that would be difficult. It doesn't really have a flavor. Okay, now that we did that, I think it needs more sweetness. But I don't. You do too? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to sweeten it some more. More honey! It also means more volume. So, you know, more honey, more volume.
We have so many dessert meads right now.
Yep.
If we were smart, we would have spread them out, like done one a year, maybe.
Yeah, we did a bunch of them at once. It's okay. They can sit for a year, too.
They won't, but they could.
No. I think I already demolished one of the cherry cheesecake ones.
We haven't even bottled cherry cheesecake.
Oh. Then what did I... Oh, that was the carrot one. Carrot cake.
Carrot cake.
Carrot cake, I demolished one.
We did fruit cake, we did carrot cake, we did cherry cheesecake, we are doing key lime pie, and we did... Did we do another one?
Not that I'm aware of.
I think it was just the chocolate... Oh, the chocolate covered cherry.
Oh.
I think it's what I'm thinking of.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, but that wasn't... It wasn't part of the...
But hey, you know, we got to make recipes. Got to have bypasses.
We need to do like a strawberry shortcake next.
Okay.
Would you use graham in that to get the...
No.
What would you do to get the
Probably,
biscuity?
to get the biscuity flavor, what would we use? I don't know. Maybe vanilla wafers.
We will have to research that.
Going to take some research on that. Yep, definitely. Okay. The reason I wanted more sweetness is there's still like an oddly acidic tang that doesn't really fit the flavor profile well.
It should have a bit of tang because it's key lime, but it should still read dessert sweet.
Yep.
And it was kind of veering off of that path. But apparently it's back on track.
Yep. And I didn't add much. I'm not even going to worry about dilution on that because I didn't add much and we've been sampling it. It's like 11%-ish. Whatever.
Do we want to take a reading to let them know?
Oh, yeah. We'll take a final reading to do that, but I'm not going to worry about dilution.
This is just to let you know...
Where it's at.
Where it's at.
2 turntables and a microphone. Yes, this is what it's like to live with us. Movie quotes and songs all day long. Sometimes simultaneously. 1.064. Yeah, 10 more points. So this is considered sweet. This is dessert mead now. And it's okay.
That was the intent.
Over time, I'm hoping some of that lime will mellow a bit because I would go even sweeter, but I don't want to make it sickly sweet. No. But also, just keep in mind that like a lot of Polish meads are actually lots and lots of honey, but they're only 15%. So they might be way higher gravity than that even. So it might sound like I'm being a little defensive. It's only because many people have shown concern for anything above like a 1.010 gravity. I'm like, okay, get a grip. There's a wide range. You can enjoy it a lot of different ways. It doesn't make it right or wrong.
All right. So at this point, because we've added so much honey, we are going to put this in a fermenter.
Yep. Wide mouth. It'll be a wide mouth.
And then we're going to pasteurize it.
Now, the way we pasteurize, we use an immersion circulator. We put it in a big pot. We bring it up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll put the Celsius right here. And we get the internal temperature of the brew to 140 Fahrenheit for 22 minutes. Then shut it all off, let it come back down to normal temperature, and you put it on the shelf.
We have
a
full video.
Pasteurized.
Link in the description below.
Yeah, that's why we didn't show you, and I just told you how to do it. But we do have a full video on how to do it. It's just a little bit more than we care to do in this exact format. But that kills the yeast, stops further fermentation, and makes it safe. We do put it back on the shelf and leave it for a week just to make
airlock.
Sure. Right. Just to make sure. We'll take another check and we'll see you in a week when that's all done. Okay, so after pasteurizing, this is sat for another week. That brings our total to 725, 825, 925, About 2 months. So it's like 8 weeks total to get to this point right here today, where we're going to judge this. We have our new scorecards. A couple people have asked how we score these, and well, it's kind of like whose line is it anyway, you know? But the repeatability score does not count in the total. It's just kind of an arbitrary...
Repeatability is just there to help our viewers know what we feel.
How easy is this to make?
Yeah.
The way we did it.
Are there potentially problems? Yeah. Or is it easy peasy? I need to look at the notes to make that assessment.
Right. This one has 2.5 pounds of Texas honey, half teaspoon fermentation, Mangrove Jack CY17 half pack, 1/8 teaspoon of acid blend, started at a 1.094 original gravity, ended at a 1.004 original gravity, giving us about 11%. We added 2 pounds of key limes, honey to 1.064, so this is very sweet, and 1.5 tablespoons of graham extract.
I would say probably the most difficult aspect of this particular brew is finding key limes.
Yeah, it took us a while. We found small limes, but they didn't say key limes,
right, and
so
we
didn't.
wanted to make sure that this was key lime.
It does kind of have the green.
It does.
It's kind of weird. It has that weird iridescent paint color where it's like yellow to green.
Yellow, brown, green,
yep,
orange.
It kind of has that going on.
I don't really know.
So repeatability, let's talk about this. We usually discuss this one. I don't think this was hard to make.
The process in general went smooth. There was no weirdness about it.
And then you rack it onto the key limes for a while and then sweeten to taste and add your graham extract to taste. I'm going to say we use a 1 to 10 scale on this card because I have the wrong cards. Usually it's 1 to 5. But whatever, it's all the same. I'm going to say it's like a 7 or an 8. I mean, I don't think it's like, shouldn't be your first one, but this could be your second brew.
Oh, sure. And part of that is just getting the key limes and getting the graham extract, because those two things might be more difficult universally to locate.
By the way, speaking of the graham extract, you can get it in the link in the description below. Yes, we are Amazon affiliates, and yes, we do get a small commission if you buy things using our links, but it does help the channel.
No extra cost to you.
Exactly. I was about to say that. Anyway, so that's repeatability. I gave it an 8. She gave it an 8 as well. We are going to show you our cards later, so don't worry, you get to see them. Next up is appearance.
It's kind of
cloudy,
murky.
And for appearance, we look at the color and clarity is really the two things. We don't rate this super high. This is only really about 1/4 of the total score.
Yeah.
I have to say, it's not unattractive. But it's very
kind of
consistently cloudy. How's that? It is a very consistent cloudiness. It's not unattractive.
It doesn't have chunks, so that's
there's no chunks. It's not pea soup. There's nothing floating in there. You know, nothing, no eyeballs looking at you or anything like that. I'm gonna say though,
you gave it a score.
I don't even have to say what my score is
because we're going over those later.
That's right. And then on to aroma.
Whew, doggy, that lime is potent.
It's very...
I'm making up words again.
It's very limey. And that's what we're looking for. Is the smell pleasant? And does it smell kind of like what it's meant to? Like, do you get the flavors that are in this?
I remember when we first made it, I was really excited about the lime smell.
I'm not excited about the lime smell.
I am less so about that now.
Yeah, we did pasteurize, so there's a difference in flavors from the last time we tried this. I'm wondering if it made the lime stronger. Because right now I get a lot of lime, very little bit of honey, and not much else really.
Kind of smells like Pledge.
It kind of does.
Like Pledge kicked up a notch.
Yep. And now we switched intent and flavor because I feel like intent comes before flavor. Flavor is kind of like our overall appreciation, whereas intent is how close do we get. But we have to taste it to do intent.
Yeah.
Right. So they work hand in hand.
I liked the other order simply because you have to get to the flavor before you can get to the intent. But I understand why you did it that way.
Okay. Well.
Does it matter? Not really. It's
Give them both at the same time, basically. Okay. It's a very different experience tasting it than smelling it.
Ooh! You know the sweet tart things that like trigger this muscle right here?
I don't have that.
I think mine is overly sensitive because I grind my teeth.
Yeah.
I am a teeth grinder. It's not cool. But because of that, my TM joints, which are these joints right here, are kind of whack. So I think the exertion of that muscle might make me more sensitive to it. I don't know, but it was just like instant.
Yeah, this is
pain.
sweet. This is sweet. I mean, we sweetened it to 1.064. So this is very, very sweet. But it's so tart from the lime that it still doesn't read as like the sickly sweet, but it has a lovely mouthfeel and viscousness because of all that extra honey added to it, that I think if it didn't have that, the lime would overtake and it'd be kind of thin and gross.
There are some aspects about this that I absolutely adore. And there's other ones that make me kind of question my life choices. I think part of that goes back to my experience with key lime pie and why I don't particularly like it. I don't think it's just the meringue. I think it's the sweet, sour...
You know what this actually tastes like? Limeade mead. I don't hate it. I actually kind of like it. I didn't think I was going to like this one at all when we were first working on it. And getting, like, when last time we tasted it, I'm kind of liking this, though.
Oh!
Apparently, she has a different opinion.
I like it. It just hurts. This...
I need more. Can you hold up?
Personally, and I kind of meant to do this as a joke, I think I need key lime pie in order to really know what the heck is going on.
You don't know what you're missing? Is that what you're trying to say? I can make key lime pie.
I need key lime pie in order to be more on target with my judging experience.
Sure.
I just want pie. Let me be honest.
Yeah, that's what she's trying to say.
I want pie.
Okay. But this is why I like to do the taste it and then talk about intent. If our intent was to make a lime mead, we were 100% successful. If our intent was to make a key lime pie mead, I think it falls a little short.
So what is missing to make it key lime pie?
More of the crust flavor.
I am deferring to you.
More of the crust flavor and a little bit more of a creaminess. We don't use lactose, so for us that would have been difficult. There's other ways, but I think it's not far off, but it falls a little bit off. It's not like I'm being critical because
sure,
I don't think this is a 10 for execution.
I'm getting a lime desserty sensation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is actually really nice. And that's the thing. If we meant to make a lime mead, this is wonderful. This is a 10. As a key lime pie mead, though, I think it's just a touch off, a couple points away from...
I am getting the gram in there, though.
Yeah, I get it. It's just the lime is much stronger.
I think it's because the lime is so aggressive.
Yeah, I think had we used maybe 1 pound of limes, this would have been a lot better.
The lime is beating you over the head.
Oh, yeah.
I am alive.
Exactly.
Yeah, we got it.
But it's actually really nice. I like it. But for intent, I got to ding it a couple points.
I'm going to do that right there.
Okay. I'm not looking at her score. I don't know what she put, but I'm going to do the numbers in a minute. And now we're on to flavor. And this is basically just enjoyment of the beverage.
It certainly doesn't hurt after drinking it if you...
Yeah, it's only like 11%, which with a little bit of honey added and everything like that, it's probably like 10 to 11%.
Yeah, the alcohol really isn't reading so much because the lime is...
No, this is a sleeper. Like you could drink a lot of this. I see putting this on ice in a glass. I know some people think that's sacrilege with a mead, but it's really not. I see this on ice, and oh my God, you could drink a lot of this.
Oh yeah,
because it's super easy to drink, and the cold would take some of that unpleasantness of the lime down and make this really amazing. We're drinking this just at room temperature, just whatever temperature our house is, like 75 degrees.
And we do that on purpose because
straight across the board
keeps things copacetic. So like nothing is turned up or turned down. Temperature change does that.
Yep.
It's science.
I like this. I think this actually came out really good.
It's just...
It's not perfect. There's a little bit of the bitter hint from the lime that I think is accentuating the mead bitter thing that I get in the back 3/4 of the palate.
I can see that.
I can take you like through the whole journey. As it enters, you get a sweet hit almost instantly, and then the lime comes through. So it's kind of like limeade that way.
It's aggressive.
Yeah, it's and the lime gets kind of aggressive. And then the honey actually comes through a little bit more. I definitely get a honey lime thing going, which is actually really nice. And then that bitterness comes in. But it's a very mouth-filling experience. It's rich, it's viscous. This is actually really nice.
This is confusing to me because I am so polarized on my emotional attachment to this drink. It's like, do I love it? Do I hate it? Do I both? How can that be? Mm-hmm. Why? What?
But this is why I separate intent from flavor. Because flavor to me is just, do you enjoy it? Regardless of what it was supposed to be, do you enjoy it? How much do you like it? Kind of like our old score used to be. Just, what do you think of it?
But
Personal bias.
I'm a bizarro person. So.
And that's okay. That's okay.
All right.
Okay, so now that we have our scores done, I am going to tabulate and total, and we'll be back with a final judgment of this beverage.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. Okay, and we're back. Had to check on my score again because I just did both of them. Do you have a number?
I do.
All right, you ready? 1, 2, 3, 7.3. This one ended up a little bit lower than I thought it was gonna. I kind of thought this would be a little higher, but
I was the harsh person.
Yeah, between the two of us, it's a 7.
Yeah,
which is good.
Yeah.
Now, something to realize, too, if you've watched our show for a long time and you look at the scores, please do not try to analyze the scores too much because every day is different. Every palate is a little bit different. If somebody just had a bad day and didn't like this one for whatever reason, it could be lower. If they just absolutely love this, it could go higher.
Yeah, half an hour from now, I might give this a 9. Who knows?
I doubt it, but it could happen. What you ate that day and everything like that. Plus, as time goes on, tastes change too. And some of our older brews, where maybe it could have been a 5 or a 6 or a 7, we weren't perfecting them like we do now, where we do like in this video, you even saw it where we're adding a little of this, a little of that, a little of that, trying to get it as perfect as possible before we do that tasting. Also, in a year, we're going to do another tasting on this to tell you everything about it. What's changed in a year, our experience along the way.
Right.
The 1 year tastings have become something unique unto themselves. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, they're no longer just about the tasting. They're more about
the journey.
The journey and what did we learn and what can we take from that knowledge learned.
They're like a podcast about the brew, basically, is what they are.
But hey, that's
yeah. I'm showing you our cards at this point, probably. So
if you like key lime pie, or if you just like lime-flavored sweet beverages, then I would say make this.
Right. Where were our differences, though? Oh, you were lower than me for aroma.
Yep.
That's interesting. I was a 3 for aroma and appearance, and you went to a 2.
And I was lower in flavor.
And I was an 8 for flavor. You were a 7. So we really weren't that far off because we were both an 8 for intent. So our scores were actually quite similar. I just went a little bit higher in aroma and flavor, making it just a little bit higher. That's a little surprising because I didn't think I was going to like this one at all. But anyway, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.